Hi, I'm Kitsap County Commissioner Rob Gelder, and welcome to this episode of Commissioner's Corner, where we will learn all about the Roads Division of Kitsap County Public Works. So make sure you stay tuned and you'll learn a lot. Welcome back, and joining me now is Jacques Dean, who is the Road Superintendent for the Kitsap County Public Works Department. So Jacques, thanks so much for being part of the program today. It's an awesome day for working outside. I think, we have behind us, we have an active paving site, and I think that most times when people think about the roads department, they automatically think about the road, the pavement, the condition of it. What type of pavement is it, or maybe if it's not paved, it could be, we have some unmaintained county right-of-way, we have gravel roads, although we're trying to transition from that. So what all goes into the maintenance of a roadway?
Okay. Well, we have 915 centerline miles of roadway throughout the county, so it's quite a bit. It's a funny tidbit, interesting tidbit is your lane miles are about 1,800 miles, which would take us from here to Fresno, California.
Oh, wow.
That's a lot of road mileage, but as part of our evaluation of what to pave and when, we are required by the County Road Administration Board to do a pavement rating survey. Every 2 years, we actually do it every year because we do our arterials and collectors and our locals. So that pavement rating defines which roads need the work. We have a decision tree that defines whether we chip seal it, whether we pave it. We've done some pilot projects on our roadways as well. So that pavement rating is the first step. It helps us to identify not only with empirical knowledge, but with a rating methodology of what roads need the work.
So I know that we've been making a concerted effort in the county to chip seal minimally all our remaining gravel roads. Right. What's the purpose behind that? Is it long-term, better structure, easier to maintain?
So our policy was to grade gravel roads twice a year, and these gravel roads are outlying. They're out all over the place. And so to mobilize equipment out to the site to do grading work, which is fairly quick, you're talking maybe a couple, 2-3 hours on one gravel road, and then you mobilize all the way back. So the cost to do the work is exceptionally high. So putting a chip seal on it, although there's a higher cost up front today, over time we won't have to go out every year, twice a year to do that. We'll have to go out every so often and do a little repair, and then 7 to 10 years later apply the next level of chip. So that's the reason we're doing that.
Okay, and you mentioned before the distinction between local roads, collectors, and arterials. What's the difference? I mean, here would probably be an example of a local road, right?
It is. So a collector, a local road is roads like this where you have a few residences. They travel the local roads to get to the collectors because you have all the local roads feeding the collector, and then they get out on an arterial, which is kind of a minor highway to get you from one town to another town or one area to another area.
So Silverdale Way, Viking Way, Hansville Road, those would be arterials. Yes, and then the collectors could feed into that and all the neighborhoods. Okay. Yeah. It's kind of like your system in your body of all the capillaries, the veins kind of running into your arteries. Yep. So in terms of the rating system, just how specific is that? Because I would imagine our goal is to make sure we stay on top of it so that we don't have to rebuild the structure of the road.
Right. So as soon as we put pavement down, as soon as we put this down, it'll start to oxidize. And over a few years, as it oxidizes, it gets brittle. And so you start to lose rock in the wheel track. As soon as you use rock, it creates a stress point and a crack forms. Well, that crack will propagate over time. You get water in the crack, and then those cracks propagate, and you get alligator cracking. And so there's a number of deficiencies that are evaluated over time on pavement. And so these pavement raters There's a defined methodology. It's not rocket science. It's rock science, but it's fairly simple. And we actually go through and visualize the pavement. They drive it and they quantify the number and type and the extent of the deficiencies on the pavement, and then it generates a score. 100 being brand new, 0 being no road left. And we try to hit these roads. Well, we've moved towards a preservation philosophy, where we are addressing roads when they're still in reasonable condition before they break over, because there's a degradation on pavement. It's kind of a flat curve when you first pave it, very slow incline or decline, and then you get to a point where it just falls apart. And that's when you have all that alligator cracking, you got water getting to the subgrade. And so what we're trying to do is apply low-cost methods to our treatment of the roadways while they're still in good condition. So you'll see us out fog sealing roadways that, when we just have the minor cracks, to seal them, to rejuvenate that oil, to keep water out of the subgrade. Then we'll move to a crack sealing effort where it's beyond really the fog seal, but we can crack seal and increase the life, or prolong the life another 3 to 5 years. And then we'll move to chip seal, which is truly a preservation method. And that chip seal seals the whole road and applies another friction surface. The rock, that's what the rock is. Provides a little bit of structure, not much, but more friction to keep cars on the roadway. And then we'll move to paving.
Okay.
So there's a whole series of different preservations.
And we're at an active road project site, so we have a roller that's going behind us, creating some noise. So you talked about some experimenting with different methods, and so why are we trying to experiment? I get it's probably much more cost effective to preserve and maintain our road, the existing road structure.
Right.
But where does the experimentation with the different technologies come in?
Well, we're always looking for ways to do things better, to get longer life out of our pavements at a lower cost. So right now, some of these preservation methods we're looking at, fog seal, crack seal, they've been around for a long time and they're effective. We know they work. Same thing with chip seal. We've done some slurry seal, which is fairly new to this area, because it used to be based on temperature. And of course, we have a very short construction window here with temperature to evaporate emulsions, water in oil. Now they've moved to chemical products, and so the market is starting to move up here. Right now the cost is a little bit high because the market's not here yet. We're testing these products now to see how they work over time, so that when the market does hit, we're already prepared. We've already tested them, we know what works, we have the equipment, because these new methodologies require different types of equipment. For instance, distributor trucks need to be able to run a hotter oil. It's got a higher viscosity. It's much hotter, so we need to know that moving forward. When it's time to replace our distributor trucks, we're geared up. We know what works. We need a truck that can apply that product.
So basically, we keep on trying to evolve to make sure we can get the most out of the money, the limited funding that we have for preservation and maintenance of our road system. Okay, well, there's an active project down here. Why don't we take a walk down here and see what's up?
Okay. So this raking is really a science. It takes a little while to get used to it. You grab a shovel and play with it. It's almost fluid.
Yeah.
Because it's got the oil in it, and as you rake it out, you'll see it just kind of set down into the mix. It's really odd. And so it takes a little while. It's you rake dirt, and even with a big loop, you rake it out, and then you see a humps, and you go and rake it out this way, and you see some more, and you're like, man, that looked pretty good. And I came out a little while later, I see all the humpies in it.
Yeah.
It's kind of like that with asphalt too. It's a kind of a science. You want to grab a rake?
Yeah.
Try it?
Yeah, let's try it.
Keep it clean. It's kind of like buttering your toast.
Buttering my toast.
You don't want to tear the toast with your butter.
No.
You don't want to push too hard. drive over it and let them drive forward.
So if they like it, let them know who did it. If they don't,
And I'll take it.
The one thing we always have to be concerned about when we're paving is the overhead power lines. See that box way up?
Oh,
You
yeah.
got power lines in front. Mm-hmm. And so these guys are all part of the team. They're all inspectors on the job. So they
Yeah.
all need to watch out for each other. They do a good job. We take out a line every so often.
yeah.
But for as much as they work around the overhead lines, they do a good job.
They will come back then and do the other lane.
Yes.
Same process, transition to the driveways, etc.
Correct.
And then they'll wrap up and head to another location.
Yep. Yep.
So should we check out some other treatments? I guess there's some chip sealing happening.
Yes.
Okay, let's go check that out.
Okay.
Now behind us is a chip seal.
Yep.
So what's the difference between the two, and why would we chip seal a road versus do an asphalt overlay?
Okay. A chip seal is a two-part application of oil and rock. It's similar in a sense to pavement, although pavement has much more pavement structure. It's got some structural capacity where a chip seal really doesn't. Mm-hmm. A chip seal is primarily a preservation methodology.
Okay.
It's meant to preserve the underlying asphalt rather than rebuilding a roadway with structure with asphalt.
Okay.
So we can put it down at a third of the cost of asphalt, at about $30,000 a mile,
Wow.
where paving's about $100,000 per mile. So we can do much more roadway with the dollar than we can with asphalt.
Okay.
And so we've upped it. We do about 30 miles a year of chip rock and about 15 of asphalt.
Okay.
But it is a preservation method. This roadway is in fairly decent shape, but it's got cracks and it's starting to degrade, so it's time to put the chip seal down now.
Okay.
So this will give us another, it depends on traffic volumes, but another 10 to 12 years of life out of the pavement.
All right. So from a financial standpoint, it makes a lot of sense. It preserves the structure of the road.
Yep.
Gives us a little bit more life. We
Yep.
get more, 3 times as many
Yeah.
miles as we do if we do overlays.
Yep. Yep.
So, and this is, I think, the distinction. Some roads in the county are chip sealed and have kind of always been chip sealed since
Yeah.
they were gravel.
Yeah.
In this case, we have an asphalt structure that's getting this preservation treatment to it,
Yep.
and that's basically to keep the life of the roadway extended.
At a high level of service. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
And so just like the overlay, we're now coming back, and what are they doing here?
Well, you got pneumatic rollers. They're wheeled, tired rollers that help knead the rock into the oil.
Okay.
And then we followed up with a drum roller that helps to level it all out.
Okay.
Creates a little bit softer driving surface,
Okay.
a little more aesthetically pleasing driving surface.
Yeah.
This is, as you see, a much faster application too. We can do a lot of road miles in a much shorter time than the asphalt overlay.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because I know in my work with the State Association of Counties that I hear from other commissioners that they don't have asphalt roads.
Yeah.
They maybe only do chip seal, or some
gravel.
counties are just gravel
Yeah,
roads.
yeah.
So it's interesting to be able to see sort of all of the different types of surfaces that we have, and to kind of keep on testing it and figuring out where we can get the biggest bang for our buck.
Yep. Yeah. One thing that's critical about these chip seals that we try to notify the public of is to slow down, because there is loose gravel on the surface.
Yeah.
And if they drive too fast, it'll pick it up, not only damage their vehicles, but maybe the oncoming traffic. So we ask them to slow down until this sets up. We'll try to get a sweeper on it same day.
Okay.
And sweep up the excess residual rock, and then we'll come back for the next couple days and get the rest of it. But it sets up the first day. This will set up, we can actually put traffic on it as soon as it's rolled. Where
Really?
on an asphalt, we have to wait about an hour or so before
Okay.
we let traffic on it.
So if you are driving over a chip sealed or newly chip sealed road, make sure to slow down
Yep.
for not only you, but everyone around you.
Yep.
That would be good. Awesome.
So we talked a little bit about pilot projects as well, and one thing we're doing with Chip Seal this year is we're using recycled asphalt. So when we're doing our preservation maintenance work, we'll do full depth grind outs where we'll repair potholed or alligatored areas, and we'll grind that old asphalt out and replace it. We also do what's called a mill and fill, where the asphalt is in such a condition that it doesn't make sense to overlay it, so we'll mill it out and then put a new layer of asphalt in. So we generate a lot of excess recycled asphalt. And we use it for gravel roads, we use it for shoulders, but we're trying it for chip seal this year. And so far it's looking promising. We've done a couple roads in the south end, and we're going to evaluate that over the next couple years to see if that might be a source of our rock. So it's cheaper, we don't have to buy virgin rock. Kitsap County doesn't have a whole lot of good rock left, and it's very pricey. So this might be a good outlet for us to get rid of this recycled material, reuse it. It's good aggregate, and it's looking like it's going to result in a good driving product as well.
It would make sense that if we can reduce, reuse, recycle in so many other ways of our lives, let's take the roadways that are getting redone and put them to use again.
Yep.
Okay. So I think that most of the going public that's driving around, their interaction with or their assumption of the roads department of Public Works is just the lanes they're driving in. But there's so many different elements of that whether it's striping, signage, even the traffic signal that might control the intersection. So why don't we go check out some of that?
Okay.
Okay. So right now we're joining Lynn McLean in the sign shop at Kitsap County Public Works. And we've had the opportunity, I think most people that drive around the community, they're thinking about the road surface that they're driving on, but there's so much that goes into making sure that it's safe, both visually and folks can find where they're going. So tell us a little bit about what you do in the sign shop here.
Well, what we do in the sign shop, and I work with 5 other sign techs, and we maintain all the signs and the markings for the county roads. And I make a lot of the signs, and these are street name signs. This is an example of a street name sign. And other signs for different departments too. But we put the signs up to guide the people and for law enforcement and just to make the roads safer. And we got over 20,000 signs in the county to maintain.
Wow.
And I don't know how many miles of road that we paint, but it's a lot, and it's a full summer with a bunch of kids to help us do the work. So
that's great. So what's the process of? It looks like you have a kind of a stock metal sign that has reflective qualities to it.
Yeah, we get the blank that's already sheeted with the white sheeting, and what I do is the guys they order the signs, and I make them, and I have a plotter that cuts it out, and it just cuts out the vinyl here, and I weed it to take out what we don't need.
Okay.
And then I tape it, and then I transfer it onto a blank of the appropriate size.
Okay.
So.
And then it goes through. It kind of gets pressed on with the roller.
Yeah, this is adhesive, and then it's got 80 pounds of pressure to press it on.
Okay.
And then I trim them up and make them look nice, and then the guys go out there and install them.
Okay.
So yeah, and we do a lot of our signs that we make are made mostly in the wintertime because that's when they're out checking their signs to find out if they need to be replaced.
Okay.
So.
And again, remind the viewers, how many signs do we maintain out there in Kitsap County?
About 20,000 signs.
20,000 signs.
And that's not the cities, that's just the county. So yeah.
So it's everything from the street signs to those arrows that are going around a curve.
Yeah,
or
chevrons and turn signs and stop signs and yield signs and speed limit signs. Yeah, we order most of like speed limit signs and stop signs and curve signs. We order those in bulk because it'd be too much for me to make all that. 'Cause
Right.
all the signs. We keep most of them out there in stock.
Okay.
So, but the special ones like memorial signs, I just made a memorial sign, and we make those here.
Okay.
So yeah.
Great. That's awesome. I don't think folks probably realize where the signs come from.
Yeah, and if they get taken down or they get vandalized, we replace them. So it keeps me pretty busy.
I can imagine so with 20,000 signs out there. That's awesome. So joining me now is John Castor and Mark Inser, who are going to kind of give us a rundown. We've seen how signs are made, but how do we get them out into the community?
So Commissioner Gelder, as we learned talking with Lynn in the sign shop, we have 20,000 traffic signs on the county road system. And this is an example of one of our sign trucks. We have 5 in the county that's split into 5 geographic areas throughout the county. Each tech is responsible for the signs in that area. And this is an example of a speed limit sign that's about ready to be repaired and installed on a post.
Okay. Then we also have stop signs and markings for curves in the roads and that type of thing.
Right, so just in the display of the different types of road signs that we have the guide signs, the warning signs, and the stop signs. And of course the stop signs are one of our most important signs, so that will be something that if someone were to see a down stop sign, they'd want to call 911 and
Okay.
report it right away, because we'll respond to that 24/7.
Okay. That's
Our
good to
techs
know.
go out about 100 times a year in after-hour calls to repair stop signs or close the road for accidents or inclement weather.
Okay, great. So if anyone sees a down stop sign, call 911, report it so that we can respond in a timely manner. That's great. Well, earlier we had the opportunity to see some of an asphalt overlay. We saw a little chip seal, but there's a whole bunch of, I know this is sort of vertical signs, right? But there's a lot that happens on the ground in terms of arrows and directionals, the painting of the center lines and stuff like that. So how does that all happen? Can we go check that out?
Yeah, sure. And that's called pavement marking. So if we walk around this way, we could see the paint striper that goes out and does the long lines on the road system. So we have roughly 1,400 lane miles of paint striping, applying about 30,000 gallons each year on the road system.
Wow.
For our yellow and edge line type roadway markings. And in addition to that, we have the arrows, the crosswalks, the stop bars that all are installed or maintained. We have about roughly 3,000 of those types of markings.
Wow.
And that type of marking is a durable plastic type markings. We used to paint all of our markings, but in the early 90s we switched to a durable plastic type marking, lasts 5 to 7 times longer.
Oh, that's great. Well, let's go check that out.
Okay.
Okay. So John, this looks like one of the striping trucks that we have.
Yes.
Oh, so I noticed that there's a cab on the front and the cab on the back, and we've got Mark back there.
Right.
hanging it. So why are there 2 cabs?
Well, obviously we have to have an operator in the front that drives the truck. And then Mark back here in the back, he's operating the paint gun. So there's a carriage that goes in and out from the striper truck that determines where the line's going to go on the road.
Okay.
So it's a relationship between the truck driver and the operator in the back.
Well, how do they communicate?
They've got a headset on. You can see Mark's got a headset.
Okay.
The operator's got a headset, so they can talk to each other.
So how much paint does this actually hold?
This holds 1,000 gallons of paint, 500 gallons of yellow, and 500 gallons of white.
Okay. And what makes the paint reflective?
The paint reflectivity is right here. It's called reflective beads. They're perfect round glass spheres. And that is applied to the paint after the paint goes down on the ground, and it's a low pressure application, about 7 pounds per gallon. And the headlights, the light source will hit that bead, go to the back of the bead, and come back to the source of the light.
Interesting.
So that's what causes the reflectivity.
That's the trick of the trade right there.
That is
to
right.
Add that in there. So what type of paint do we use on the roadway?
So in 2007, we switched from a solvent-based paint to a water-based paint. It's a lot cheaper, and it also is a lot more environmentally friendly. But with that, it comes to challenges of you cannot use water-based paint in any type of a moist environment. So in the Northwest, it presents some challenges for application parameters. So generally, our paint season's from mid-July or mid-May to the end of September.
Okay, and how many miles of lines do we actually, stripes do we have?
We stripe approximately 1,400 lane miles on the county road system, in addition to the cities of Paulsbo, Bremerton, and Port Orchard.
Oh wow.
So-
Okay, so we do a fee-for-service arrangement with the cities.
Right, it's an interlocal government agreement, and with the cities and our roads combined, we're using about 30,000 gallons of paint per year.
Wow,
Yeah,
that's a lot.
that's a lot.
But it offers some safety in terms of the going public to know where the lanes are. And
It sure
everything
does. It sure does. And the reflectivity at night, you can really see how the lines help you at night.
Okay. So one of the other things I know that I want to check out is the signal shop, because not only we've talked about how we kind of maintain the roadway and then have appropriate signage around there, and we're making sure that people are in their lane, but we have a lot of controlled intersections, and I think folks might be interested in that. So let's go check that out.
I agree.
Okay, great. So now I'm joining Darren Miller in the signal shop of Kitsap County Public Works. Thanks so much for being part of the show today. So one of the things I don't know that everybody driving around the county road system realizes is that we manage a lot of the controlled intersections with signals. So tell us a little bit about what we're seeing here and what goes into the maintenance of those signals.
So this is the traffic management system right here, a center that the guys can sit down at and take a look. So all of the traffic signals that the county owns and operates are to have fiber run to them. So over the years, we run fiber to those areas. We have them sending back information to us. We're actually able to log in and access the controllers and the cabinets, battery backup systems, cameras, all of that from these centers right here.
Wow. So you mentioned cameras. Well, I just want to make sure that folks that are watching realize this is not one of those camera enforcement type of things. We don't have those in the county.
Right, we do not.
Okay.
So the cameras, we do have two different types of cameras. We have a PTZ camera, which is kind of a round dome camera. You'll see it hanging down underneath, usually a light, a traffic light. They're hanging down. Those actually we use to get pictures of kind of like this. Essentially what it'll do is it'll allow us to look at an intersection and see what's going on. So what happens is if something happens out here and there's a knockdown or whatever, it actually texts us and lets us know that there's a problem at the intersection. So the guys can actually come back or at their laptops, open up and take a look with the video and see what's going on at the intersection.
Okay.
And also be able to make some changes if needed and look at what's going on in the intersection through the controllers. So that's one kind of camera that does it. The other is a video detection camera. So what that is you'll see them in Silverdale and a lot of other places, kind of an elongated camera that sets up on the arm. And that one is just literally for detecting cars. It memorizes a spot on the road and in that area, it memorizes the pixelation in there. If there's a change in pixelation in that area, then it puts in a call.
So is that just to help with the timing of the signal?
That can. So when they have detection all the way around, it's considered a fully actuated system.
Okay.
So fully actuated means it has detection on all the legs of the signal, and it literally runs in real time. So it actually is able to adjust to the amount of traffic flow that's coming through the area.
Okay.
So as long as it's detecting in a direction, we'll say it's northbound, and there's an allotted time of, we'll say 45 seconds, and it starts counting down once the green comes on. As it's counting down, and it still sees cars, it's going to continue to use all of that 45 seconds. But we'll say all of a sudden the car is clear, and then it doesn't see any cars, that loop doesn't, then it will gap out. And it'll go out and serve one of the other directions that it sees cars at.
Okay. I know that one of the complaints that I've heard from folks is with distracted drivers. As you're queued up at a light and then everyone in front of you goes.
Yes.
If you're looking at your cell phone, you've created a gap, which will then probably
It can, and that can cause that problem. You have someone that'll hesitate, maybe the first car goes at the stop bar, the other person's waiting and looking at their phone, enough of a gap happens, the signal gaps out,
Yep.
and it goes back to red.
Note to self: don't be a distracted driver.
Yes.
Make sure that you help the signals work as best as they can. So, well, great. So you get some signals. Folks are able to dial in through the information on the cameras or the text messaging, And then what are you doing there just to try to modify it? Do you work with
So-
the timing of something?
So
that's
essentially,
happening?
we can. So if we're looking at this and we see something going on here,
Mm-hmm.
what we're looking at is we're looking at the camera. We're hearing the call of someone said, "Hey, this is a problem."
Okay.
We can pull that up, and we actually can see the signal in real time. What's going on?
Okay.
Right? We see a video picture of it, but we also see what's going on in the controller inside the cabinet.
Okay.
And so all that together gives us a way to diagnose a problem before we have to go out to the site. Now sometimes we can actually look through and maybe see there's an issue right here and change it if we need to. Most of the time it's a field issue.
Okay.
This just helps us diagnose that and go out to the field, because many times if you're going to, let's say Miller Bay and West Kingston, an hour or more away,
Right.
and you didn't know any of this stuff, and you drive up and then you realize you need tools or parts or whatever, then you're having to turn around and come all the way
So
back
it just
down.
helps you be more efficient, manage
it
the
does.
workload because you're dispatching from one location.
Exactly,
Okay.
exactly it.
Well, great.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate you taking the time to be part of the program today and giving folks a bit of a glimpse into what happens behind the signal. So, Jacques, there is no way that we can actually cover the breadth and scope of everything that happens within the Roads Division in one program, but are there points or different aspects of it that we want to make sure that our viewers understand before the end of the program?
Well, there's a couple things that come to mind. There's some other groups within the road division that we do work with as a maintenance group. We have an engineering division that's comprised of 4 subdivisions: survey, design, right-of-way, and construction management. So they do the bid contracts, the bigger scope projects, where my crew will do some smaller scope county forces work,
Okay.
road improvement projects. We work very closely together on those. They do provide me with survey and some design work on some of these county forces projects. Our right-of-way group obtains temporary rights of access and easements and things like that for us. So, as a whole, within Public Works, we all work together to accomplish our goal to maintain safer roadways for the general public.
I know that we've really only seen the surface of the roadways, but there's any number of culverts, bridges that all make up part of the system.
Yeah, so we maintain about 1,200 miles of shoulder and 1,200 miles of ditch. We have all the cross culverts that allow drainage to flow beneath the road embankments. We have 41 bridges that we're responsible for. The crew does all the vegetation management to maintain clear sight distance and overhead clearances. We have 3 pits and 1 quarry that we utilize to produce aggregate material for the work, for maintenance work. And the guys also do the snow and ice response. And of course, this last year we had quite a snow event, and they were out there 12-hour shifts for 13 straight days, keeping the roadways safe. So.
Yeah. So that's, I think, the thing that folks don't necessarily realize, that this is really, for all intents and purposes, it's a 24/7, 365 days a year in terms of being able to be on the ready, do the work, and respond to inclement weather or other needs in the community.
And when you say 24/7, we have an on-call system as well, where the road shop crews are on volunteer status all night. And so we get trees down, or they respond to accidents to support the sheriff's office, spills, you name it. Anything that happens when we're all in bed sleeping, they respond to it so that when we wake up in the morning, things are clear and people can get to work and school and wherever they need to go.
Well, I think that for me, it just illustrates that no matter what part of the county, what division, there's such a complexity overall that I think folks don't necessarily have an appreciation for. And my hope really is that this program gives them an opportunity to have a sneak peek behind the scenes a little bit and understand what's going on. So thanks again for your time and being part of the program.
Yeah,
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks again for tuning into this episode of Commissioner's Corner. I hope you learned a lot. There is so much to cover in the Roads Division. There's no way that one program could cover it all. But I hope you took away something, and make sure if you have questions, let us know, and we'll make sure you get your answers. But I want to leave you with one special note, is that when you see our public works crews out there on the road, please slow down, be careful, and when you see the sign, slow down or make a stop. We want to make sure everybody's safe, you traveling public as well as our public works team. So thanks a lot, and I'll see you next time.